Hi, everybody. This is Benny. We just had our bath the other day, but look at this fuzzy face. So, part of getting used to clippers is getting used to scissor first. And so, we're going to do some things with this puppy to help him start to get used to the sound of things around his face and having his face held. And all that's ultimately going to lead to our being able to be more successful with clippers when we add those. So the most important tool that I have right now is the strap collar. Just keep doing that collar practice that we've been talking about in this entire module. So just like we did in the tub, I'm using it on him to help stabilize his face, to hold him into place so I don't have to grip his muzzle. If I didn't have this collar on, the only way to be able to restrain his face would be to grip his muzzle, which is pretty threatening or at least very dominant, or, grab the skin of his face. And ultimately, that's something I might do. And it is a good way to hold them still later on when we're doing more advanced things. But for now, I want this to be easy. And he's got that reflex still of backing up. If pressure comes forward, here, watch. If I put some pressure on, you see, he just rocks right back. So, stand up, buddy. Good boy. So, I don't want to have to deal with that by holding his face. So, the collar on here, if he tries to throw himself backwards, I can keep him from succeeding at that. And anyway, just keep practicing with the collar. All right, so the first thing that we're looking at right here, there's several areas, but the first is this puppy coat that's growing in front of his eyes. I call it the fan right here. And what I usually do is if the puppy's pretty secure, I take my thinning shears and I lightly lay them down into the hair that's in front of the eyes. But I want to do it in such a way that I can see the end, both ends, so that I know that there's no chance that I'm hooking any kind of any skin or pinching anything like that. So I lay it down, I can see the blade clearly, make one or two little cuts, and then pull it out. If you've got a super wiggly puppy, though, you might not get 4 or 5 tries. So you might want to use little smaller scissors or your regular 7.5 to 8.5 inch straight shears. Easy, buddy. I like for this the control of the small scissors. Just a reminder, though, that with the small scissors, they actually produce more force at the tip. So you have to be really careful that you don't use a hard grip to try to cut. It doesn't take much. They're pretty sharp. Okay, so since he's kind of a moving target, I don't need to try to be perfect. I'm just getting in there. I can see very clearly where the scissor is. I'm holding my fingers in the collar and just a little bit actually of his beard in my fingers and against the heel of my thumb just to hold him a little bit more still. All right, now we're going to do this side right here. So pull back what's growing in to be my eyebrow. If I want to, I can slick that hair back a little bit. Just with a little spit. And so then I can see better. This is really the lock right here. There's 2 locks of hair right in front of that are growing in front of the eye. And I'm just going to trim those away very lightly. Little at a time. It's better to take a little and then come back and do a little more than to be too daring and jab somebody. It could be you too. Okay, so now I've got the inside corners of his eyes cleared up pretty well. And now we're going to work on getting the sides of his face less shaggy and a little more schnauzer-like, with the shorter cheeks. And this is definitely a good time to practice using your thinning shears. These are Yamako 44, 46 tooth. And these are my Kenchiis. They're 46 teeth. I like both of these very much. So what I'm doing, he's still, you notice he's kind of twitching and tossing his head a little, and that's fine. I'm not holding too tight because that'll just increase his fussing with me. I'm going to flip his ear back to get it out of the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trimming right up against, coming towards the side of his eye. And that's kind of like the edge of the eyebrow. So I'm going to do that first. And then keeping in mind that the line ideally that will ultimately be working towards, although it's less important with the puppy, is from the corner of the eye to the corner of the ear. I'm going to use the thinning shears to make a few cuts. And just like with the bath with Benny, the idea is less to get all the work done necessarily than it is for him to get used to the sound and the experience of having his head held while something's happening that he's not necessarily the one who's choosing. Again, if he's too twitchy or you just want to make a little quicker work of it, you can use your straight scissors also. Part of why I like to have the thinning shears with the opening and the closing, though, is the sound that it makes. Now you can see he's not perfect. Now he's getting a little fussy. Let me reset the collar. He's not perfect, and I'm not asking him to be. I'm not going to tell him he's being a problem. This is his first time with this. So I'm going to wait for the moments of cooperation, good boy, and reinforce those. And to the extent possible, I'm going to kind of ignore what I don't want. Good boy, thank you. I'm also going to be separating working with him fidgeting, and what I mean is, if he starts fidgeting, I'm going to resolve the being still and then go back to work. I'm not going to try to force the work through the fidgeting because that's a good way to get bad habits started for the puppy. And it's a good way for things to escalate out of control and maybe somebody get cut, you or the puppy. Good boy. Good. Now he's letting me hold his face while I was trimming. And so this should be helping any of you who are like, but my puppy's not still and yours is so good. Well, we all start at the beginning and all the puppies reach a point where they're like, no, I'm going to see what happens if I don't do this. So again, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to be beautiful here. I'm really getting a little bit of work done, but I'm doing a lot of training is what I'm doing here. No. And when they're fussy, just keep persisting. No. Often they will escalate a little bit before they give in, and that's okay. That's why we're patient. And don't always expect it to be positive. Most in the right direction. Sometimes, stand up. Good boy. And just lifted him up underneath to help him be right again. I'm trying to get a little of this hair right under here. Part of his reaction here is the sound, and that's why we're doing this with the thinning shears. I know you can't hear it on the video, but he can hear the sound of the scissors opening and closing right by his ear. No. If you reach a point where you're like, hey, we've done this repetition enough times, you could try just what I did there. A very calm but certain N-O. Don't escalate it with your intensity. Oh, Oh, hi there. He finally let me do it there. So I'm definitely going to take that moment, call it a victory for the moment. Good boy. Okay. See if we can repeat that. Good. Now, sometimes praise sets them off. So be careful not to praise them too hard either. For if you know that your puppy thinks praise means all done, then that might be something else to practice. Okay, and finally, I'm not going to worry about this hair inside of the ear yet. This hair that's growing on the inside of the ear, that's really not all that safe to deal with scissors. I'd rather deal with that with clippers, but we're not to clippers yet. So, you can imagine just from the scissors, the, the fussiness here, what would happen if I tried to put clippers near this ear? I would be fighting a bucking bronco and we would both be having a bad time. If I need to do a little trimming of the hair at the ear, whatever's sticking straight up or whatever, that I can address a little bit because I'll be able to hold the straight scissors and see both blades, see the points of both tips. So I know what's in the blades that's going to get cut. Oh, good boy. He just did a deep sigh for me. Deep sigh is always a good boy or good girl because deep sigh, always is a little bit of give up. Good boy. Okay, so that only took 12 minutes to do the inside corners of the eye and one half of his face, a little bit with thinning shears. But this is how we do it. This is how we do a little at a time. And why it's not all about getting the job done. It's about building the rapport, building the habits, building the cooperation. So now for this side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to come down into this hair that's on the side of his face. I got my fingers in the collar and my thumb on his nose. He is too fussy. I got to put the scissors down. Now, one thing to know, when you're putting your thumb across their nose, sometimes you get resistance from them because you might actually be putting pressure on the nose and blocking the airway a little bit, especially down at the end of the nose. The bone up here is pretty solid and you can put your thumb on it and it doesn't interfere with the airflow. But the farther down the muzzle you go, this is now not bone, it's just the cartilage of the nose. And if you put too much pressure right across the bottom, the end of the nose, then it makes it harder for them to breathe. And then that would be an understandable reason why they might be getting more fussy. So part of this process is also just learning the sensitivity in your hands, both with the scissors and your holding hand, so that you're learning the dexterity of all 5 of your fingers and including your thumb, and being able to start to use them independently and feel them independently. All right, so this is getting the corner of the eye. Easy. Good boy. And smoothing the cheeks down a little bit. Good. Here's a bunch of hair right here in front of the ear, which as long as I can see both blades and the tips of both blades, it's safe to use. Don't cut into something you can't see, especially in the beginning. You can't see it. If you can't see both blades and the tips of both blades, don't cut. All right. Now, I'm right-handed, so this area is the hardest to get when they're first learning, and I'm trying to hold the collar and the nose and the muzzle and everything else and manage a camera at the same time. So I'm going to come around to this side. Good, buddy. and see if I can do it. Another grip is I can put my pinky and my last finger in the collar, and now my thumbs across the muzzle the other way. And now I am able to see, no, and trim this area and allow you to see it. No, no. All right, we're just gonna be patient. No, it sits. That's fine. But I'm gonna stand him up again before we work, because part of grooming, part of the work of grooming, at least at this point, is standing up and just learning to be patient when someone's holding your head and your face. No, no, don't give up. Don't get impatient and get mad. No. Stand up. All right, boy, I want to get a little compliance so I can quit on a good note. So I'm gathering up a little bit of skin on the other side of his face, so he has a little less ability to wrestle. Okay, good boy. Okay, good boy. I would like to have gotten more done in that moment, but I needed to quit while he was cooperative. Take a little break. Start it back up again. So almost all of this resistance, good boy, has just been about the restraint. I don't like you holding my head. I don't want you to hold my face. What are you doing making sound near my ears? That's new. I don't like what I don't know. No. They really get flaily or try to break your grip. That's a good place for an NO. Not an angry one, but one that's clear. Good. Good boy. All right. I'm going to take that as a good stopping point. For the sake of this video, I went a little longer than I probably would have. A good idea is to set yourself a timer for like 5, 7, maybe 8 minutes. And just however much you can get done in that amount of time is the amount you get done in that session, even if you're not quote unquote done. You can go back to it as many times as you need to get it looking a little nicer. See, I left this bit here, but I don't want to push into I don't want to push into a power struggle. I just want to skip that part. I want to skip the power struggle. Oh, good shake off. Good boy. So that means I have to come back and do some more of it later. And that's okay. Yeah. Good boy, Benny. It's his first time with scissors around his face. He did really good. Yeah, you did really good. Yeah. Is it? The final thing I'm doing here also is just because I'm done doesn't mean he's immediately off the table, doesn't mean the rules are all over. I want that to be on my terms, and I want him to just have a little hanging out time here. Yes. We'll keep practicing. You keep practicing. And coming up, we'll do some ear trimming. We'll do some feet trimming around the bottoms of the feet. Some more handling and socialization to help them get used to things that aren't as hard as clippers before we get started with clippers. All right. Yay, Benny. Thank you.